The world died screaming. It began with whispers, news reports of violent outbreaks in far-off places. Then, it came home. The virus spread like wildfire, turning people into relentless, flesh-hungry monsters. Governments collapsed in days. Cities burned. And the rules that had governed society for centuries crumbled overnight. Now, there were no more laws, no more nations, just the living and the dead. Marcus Kane crouched behind an overturned police car, gripping his rifle. His team, 5 survivors hardened by loss, moved silently through the ruins of New Chicago. The air reeked of death. Fires flickered in the distance, casting long shadows against crumbling buildings. "Clear," whispered Sam, a wiry man with a shotgun slung across his back. Marcus scanned the street. The dead shuffled in the distance, their guttural moans carried by the wind. A few months ago, these things were people, teachers, workers, parents. Now, they were just hungry. "We're clear, for now," Marcus muttered. "Move." They darted toward a grocery store, its windows shattered, shelves ransacked. Food was running out, and desperate survivors were just as dangerous as the undead. Inside, Harper, their medic, searched for supplies while Ben and Taylor watched the entrance. The silence was suffocating. Then, a noise, rustling from the back. Marcus signaled for silence, raising his rifle. His heart pounded as he approached the source. He rounded the corner. A teenager, no older than 16, clutching a rusted knife. His eyes were wild, sunken from hunger. "Please," the boy croaked. "I don't want trouble. Just looking for food." Marcus hesitated. Mercy was rare these days. The week didn't last long. But before he could respond, gunfire erupted outside. "Shit! Reapers!" Ben yelled. The Reapers, ruthless marauders who thrived in the lawless world, descended upon them. A bullet shattered a window, spraying glass everywhere. "We're pinned." Taylor fired back, taking cover behind the counter. The teenager bolted, vanishing into the chaos. Marcus didn't have time to care. More bullets tore through the store. The Reapers didn't just want supplies. They wanted blood. "We gotta move, now." Marcus growled. Through the broken window, he saw them, 5 men, clad in scavenged armor, their leader sporting a red skull tattoo across his face. "You're on Reaper turf," the man sneered. "Hand over your weapons, and we might let you crawl away." Marcus's grip tightened on his rifle. He knew their type, bullies who preyed on the weak. "Screw you," he spat. The leader grinned. "Wrong answer." A Molotov sailed through the window. Flames erupted, licking at the walls. Smoke filled the air. Marcus grabbed Harper and shoved her toward the back exit. "Out! Now!" They crashed through the rear door into an alley, only to freeze. Deadheads. A dozen of them, drawn by the noise, staggered toward them. Hollow eyes. Rotting flesh. "No choice, fight!" Marcus shouted. Bullets tore into the undead, dropping some, but more kept coming. The smell of burning flesh mixed with the acrid scent of smoke. Sam swung his shotgun like a club, caving in a corpse's skull. Harper stabbed another in the eye. Taylor screamed as one latched onto her arm. A gunshot. The Reaper leader stood at the alley's mouth, smoking pistol in hand. "Fun's over," he chuckled. Marcus raised his rifle, but he was too slow. The butt of another Reaper's gun smashed into his head. The world blurred. He hit the ground hard, vision swimming. The last thing he saw was the dead closing in as the Reapers dragged his team away. And then, darkness. Marcus woke to the sharp sting of a boot against his ribs. "Rise and shine, asshole," a gruff voice sneered. His head throbbed as he forced his eyes open. He was bound, wrists tied behind his back with thick zip ties. Around him, his team, Harper, Sam, Ben, and Taylor, were also restrained, their faces bloodied but alive. They sat in the middle of an abandoned warehouse, its shattered windows allowing pale moonlight to creep through the rusted beams. The Reapers had them. Their leader, the man with the red skull tattoo, crouched in front of Marcus, twirling a knife between his fingers. "You're lucky," he said, voice dripping with mock kindness. "Most people don't get to see the inside of a Reaper camp." "Yeah, I feel real lucky," Marcus muttered. The Reaper laughed and pressed the knife under Marcus's chin. "You're ex-military," he said. "I can tell. The way you move, the way you fight. Bet you led men before all this, huh?" He grinned. "Well, guess what? You don't lead shit anymore." Marcus clenched his jaw. "We don't have much, but we'll trade," Harper spoke up. "Medical supplies, ammo." The Reaper leader shot her a bored look. "We don't trade. We take." He snapped his fingers. Two men grabbed Taylor, dragging her away. She kicked and screamed, panic flashing in her eyes. "Hey!" Marcus surged forward, but a fist slammed into his gut, knocking the wind out of him. The Reaper leader crouched beside him again. "Here's how this works. You tell me where the rest of your supplies are, or I start carving pieces off your little family here. One by one." Marcus glared at him. "Go to hell." The man sighed. "Fine. Have it your way." He nodded at one of his men, who raised a machete. Then the wall exploded. A deafening boom tore through the warehouse as fire and debris rained down. The force knocked everyone off their feet. Through the dust and smoke, figures emerged, armed men, wearing scavenged tactical gear. Not Reapers. Gunfire erupted. Chaos swallowed the room. Marcus felt hands yank him up. A knife sliced through his restraints. He spun, finding himself face to face with a dark-skinned woman with braided hair and piercing green eyes. "Come on if you want to live," she barked. Marcus didn't hesitate. He grabbed Harper, then Ben and Sam, cutting their restraints with a discarded blade. "Taylor." He spotted her across the warehouse, struggling under a Reaper's grip. Without thinking, he lunged, tackling the man and driving his knife into his throat. Taylor scrambled free. They ran. Through the smoke, past the chaos. The armed newcomers cut through the Reapers like ghosts, moving with deadly precision. Marcus and his team burst out into the open night air. More of the mysterious fighters stood waiting, ushering them toward an armored truck. "Move," the woman with the braids shouted. They piled inside just as the last of the Reapers fell. The truck roared to life, tires screeching against the pavement. Marcus turned to the woman. "Who the hell are you?" She smirked. "The only people standing between you and death. Name's Vex. Welcome to the Outriders." The truck sped into the ruins, leaving the burning Reaper camp behind. The armored truck rumbled through the desolate streets of New Chicago, its reinforced tires crushing bones and debris beneath them. Inside, Marcus and his team sat in tense silence, catching their breath after the ambush. The woman who had saved them, Vex, stood near the back, her sharp green eyes scanning the road ahead through a slit in the steel plating. "So," Marcus finally said, breaking the silence, "who the hell are the Outriders?" Vex smirked. "Survivors. Same as you. But we don't just scrape by, we fight back. Unlike those Reaper scumbags, we're actually trying to build something." Marcus studied her. She had the look of a soldier, lean, strong, always calculating. The others in the truck carried themselves the same way. Whoever the Outriders were, they were organized. Sam exhaled sharply. "Well, you've got my thanks. Those bastards were about to gut us like pigs." "Don't thank me yet," Vex said. "We've got a job for you." Marcus tensed. "We don't owe you anything." Vex crossed her arms. "You want to head back out there? Be my guest. But if you're smart, you'll listen. We need people who can fight. And you? You've got experience." Marcus exchanged a glance with Harper, then back at Vex. "What kind of job?" Vex tapped the metal wall of the truck. Ever hear the radio signal? Marcus frowned. He had. A faint broadcast had been repeating for weeks now, a voice claiming there was a safe zone, a place where the infection could be stopped. Most people dismissed it as a myth. That signal is real, Vex said, as if reading his mind. We tracked it. It's coming from an old military bunker north of the city. And inside? A scientist, one of the last real doctors left. She says she's got a way to stop this nightmare. Maybe even reverse it. Harper sat up straighter. A cure? Or something close, Vex said. Problem is, the place is surrounded. Deadheads everywhere. And we don't have the numbers to break through alone. But with you and your team? We've got a shot. Marcus narrowed his eyes. You really believe this doctor can stop the virus? Vex hesitated. I don't believe in much these days. But if there's even a chance she's telling the truth, it's worth dying for. Marcus thought about it. The world had already fallen apart. Governments were gone. Laws were gone. The dead ruled the streets. If there was even a sliver of hope left, wasn't it worth chasing? He met Vex's gaze. When do we leave? Vex grinned. At dawn. The truck roared deeper into the ruins, carrying them toward a future that might finally hold something other than just survival. The morning sun barely cut through the thick haze of smoke that lingered over the city ruins. Marcus and his team stood on the rooftop of an old office building, looking down at the nightmare below. The military bunker, the supposed source of the mysterious radio signal, was dead ahead, buried beneath a collapsed parking structure. But it was surrounded. Hundreds of undead milled about the ruins, their rotting bodies forming an unbroken sea of death. Even from this distance, the air reeked of decay. This is suicide, Sam muttered, gripping his shotgun tighter. Not if we do it right, Vex said, crouching next to Marcus. She pointed to a nearby overpass, its skeletal remains stretching over the horde. We set off charges there, create a diversion. With the right timing, we slip past while the dead are distracted. And if that doesn't work? Harper asked. Then we improvise, Vex said. Marcus studied the battlefield below. The Outriders were disciplined, but they were outnumbered. One mistake, and the dead would swarm them. But something gnawed at him. The scene below felt wrong. As if reading his thoughts, Ben spoke up. You guys noticing this? The way they're moving? Marcus nodded. The undead weren't just shuffling aimlessly. They were gathering, as if something was drawing them toward the bunker. Like a trap. We need to move fast, Marcus said. Set the charges, get inside, and extract the scientist before this gets worse. Vex nodded. All right. Let's get to work. The attack begins. An hour later, they were in position. The explosives were rigged to the overpass, and Vex held the detonator. On my mark, she whispered. Marcus crouched behind an overturned vehicle with Harper, Sam, and Ben. The bunker's entrance was just ahead, hidden beneath rubble. Vex clicked the detonator. Boom! The overpass collapsed in a fiery explosion, sending chunks of concrete and steel crashing onto the street below. The noise was deafening. The horde reacted instantly, drawn toward the destruction like moths to a flame. Move! Marcus barked. They sprinted toward the bunker entrance, staying low as the undead flooded toward the burning wreckage. For a moment, it worked. They reached the bunker door, hidden beneath layers of debris. Then everything went to hell. Gunfire erupted from the rooftops. Marcus spun, Reapers. At least a dozen of them, perched on a nearby building, opening fire on both the Outriders and the undead. Son of a bitch. Vex cursed, diving behind cover. It was an ambush. The Reapers had been waiting for them. The dead, now alerted by both the explosion and the gunfire, turned toward the bunker, drawn to the fresh chaos. Get that door open! Marcus shouted as bullets whizzed past. Harper and Ben scrambled to clear the rubble while Marcus and Sam returned fire. Vac's Outriders were pinned down, fighting on two fronts against both the Reapers and the swarming undead. A Reaper with a sniper rifle took aim at Sam. Crack! Sam's body jerked as the bullet ripped through his shoulder. He hit the ground hard, screaming in pain. Sam! Harper crawled to him, pressing her hands against the wound. Marcus turned and emptied his rifle at the sniper, forcing him to duck. But more Reapers were closing in. "We need that damn door open now," Marcus shouted. Ben finally pried away the last chunk of debris, revealing a rusted metal hatch. "It's jammed," Ben yelled. Marcus gritted his teeth. There was no time. The Reapers were closing in, the undead were almost on top of them, and their only escape was sealed shut. "We're not gonna make it," Harper cried. Then the hatch clicked and slowly swung open. A pale, terrified woman in a torn lab coat stared up at them from the darkness below. "Get inside," she yelled. Marcus didn't hesitate. He grabbed Sam, dragging him into the bunker as the others followed. The second they were inside, the scientist slammed the hatch shut, sealing them in. Outside, the battle raged on. Inside, the truth of the bunker awaited them. The bunker was cold. The air smelled stale, a mix of mildew and old electricity. Flickering emergency lights cast eerie shadows against steel walls lined with control panels, broken monitors, and maps of the old world. Marcus and his team collapsed inside, gasping for breath as gunfire and undead shrieks echoed outside. Sam groaned in pain, clutching his bleeding shoulder. Harper knelt beside him, digging through her pack for bandages. The woman who had let them in stood by the door, her eyes wild with fear. She was thin, exhausted-looking, with dark hair tied back in a loose bun. Her lab coat was stained with sweat and grime. "Who the hell are you?" Marcus demanded, gripping his rifle. "I'm Dr. Evelyn Carter," she said quickly. "And if you came for the cure, you're too late." Silence. "What do you mean, too late?" Vex asked, stepping forward. Evelyn swallowed hard, rubbing her temples. "I had a sample. A possible countervirus. I spent the last 2 years developing it." She looked up, guilt flashing in her eyes. "But 3 days ago, the Reapers found me." Marcus tensed. "They stole it," she continued. "Destroyed most of my work. I barely got away with my life. I managed to send out the last transmission before they cut power to my equipment." She gestured to the dark screens around them. "I hoped someone would come. Someone other than them." Harper helped Sam sit against the wall, pressing a cloth to his wound. "So you're telling us we risked our lives for nothing?" "Not nothing," Evelyn said quickly. "I memorized the research. The cure can still be made. But without the sample, it's useless." Marcus pinched the bridge of his nose, frustration boiling inside him. "So let me guess," Vex said, folding her arms. "The Reapers have it." Evelyn nodded grimly. "Their leader, Riker, took it. He thinks he can use it as leverage. If there's a cure, people will need him." Marcus clenched his fists. He had seen men like Riker before, power-hungry scavengers who thrived in the collapse of civilization. They weren't interested in saving the world, only controlling it. Ben, who had been silent, exhaled sharply. "So what now? We just give up?" Evelyn shook her head. "No. There's still a chance." She turned to a nearby metal locker, pulling it open. Inside were blueprints, papers covered in chemical formulas, and a worn-out map. She grabbed the map and spread it across a table. "This is their main stronghold," she pointed to a marked building, an old prison on the outskirts of the city. "That's where Riker took the sample. If we can get inside and retrieve it, I can finish the cure." Marcus stared at the map. The prison was a fortress. If the Reapers were holding the cure there, it wouldn't be easy to take it back. Harper sighed. "We just fought our way in here. Now you want us to fight our way out?" We don't have a choice, Marcus said. If we leave that cure in Riker's hands, we might as well let the world rot. Vex smirked. Breaking into a Reaper stronghold? That's my kind of mission. Marcus looked around at his team, exhausted, injured, but still standing. They had lost too much already. This might be their last chance to change the world. He turned back to Evelyn. Then let's go steal back the future. The city was a graveyard under the fading sun. Marcus and his team moved like shadows through the ruins, following the map Dr. Evelyn Carter had given them. Every step brought them closer to the Reaper's stronghold, the old Blackgate prison, now a fortress of death and cruelty. Vex led the way, her sharp green eyes scanning for threats. Behind her, Ben and Harper supported Sam, who gritted his teeth through the pain of his gunshot wound. Marcus brought up the rear with Evelyn, his rifle steady in his hands. They stopped at a crumbling overpass, looking down at the prison. It was worse than they expected. Reaper banners, crudely painted with skulls and bloody handprints, hung from the prison walls. Searchlights swept the yard, revealing dozens of armed guards patrolling the perimeter. More disturbing was the massive pit in the center, filled with undead. Marcus gritted his teeth. They're breeding a horde. Evelyn swallowed hard. Riker doesn't just want control. He wants to wipe out anyone who resists him. We need a way in, Harper said. A way that doesn't get us killed in 10 seconds. Vex smirked. Lucky for you, I know a guy. The inside man. An hour later, they crouched in a ruined gas station near the prison. Vex knelt beside a man in scavenger gear, his face lined with dirt and sweat. You're insane, the man, Jonas, whispered. You want to break into Blackgate? Do you have a death wish? Vex grinned. More like a plan. You still have access to the supply tunnels? Jonas exhaled sharply, running a hand through his unkempt hair. Yeah, but they're crawling with infected. And worse, Reapers booby-trapped most of the entrances. Marcus crouched beside them. We can handle the infected. Can you get us inside? Jonas hesitated, then sighed. If you get me and my people out of this hellhole? Yeah, I'll do it. Deal, Marcus said. Jonas nodded. All right. We move at night. That's when the guards are lazy, and the tunnels are less active. He looked at Evelyn. You really got a cure? She nodded. I can finish it if we get the sample back. Jonas chuckled bitterly. A cure. After all this time. He stood up, dusting himself off. Then let's make history. The infiltration. Nightfall came fast. The city felt even more haunted under the cover of darkness. Jonas led them to a rusted sewer grate behind an abandoned church. He pried it open, revealing a ladder descending into the earth. Stay quiet and stay close, he whispered. If you hear clicking, run. Clicking? Ben asked. Jonas didn't answer. They climbed down into darkness. The tunnels smelled of rot and filth. Water dripped from cracked pipes. Their footsteps echoed in the confined space. Then they heard it. A soft click click click. Harper froze. What the hell is that? Jonas swore under his breath. Reapers call them stalkers. The virus mutated some of the infected. They hunt in packs. As if on cue, the shadows moved. Pale, emaciated creatures slithered out from the darkness. They were faster than normal zombies, their milky eyes locked onto the intruders. Their clawed hands twitched. Then they charged. Run! Jonas shouted. The team bolted down the tunnel as the stalkers closed in. Sam, still weak, stumbled. One of the creatures leapt for him. Marcus pivoted and fired, blasting its head apart. Keep moving, he barked. They reached a rusted maintenance door. Jonas yanked it open, ushering them inside. The second they were through, he slammed it shut, sealing the stalkers behind them. Everyone gasped for breath. Jonas wiped sweat from his brow. Yeah. Now you see why I hate the tunnels. Vex smirked. This is nothing compared to what's ahead. Jonas led them deeper, until they reached a ladder leading up. He pressed a finger to his lips. This comes up right inside the prison. Marcus took a deep breath. All right. We find the cure, get out, and burn this place to the ground. Harper smirked. Sounds like a plan. Jonas pushed the hatch open. They climbed up, into the heart of the Reaper's den. The air inside Blackgate Prison was thick with sweat, blood, and something worse, fear. Marcus and his team moved silently through the dark corridors, following Jonas as he led them deeper into the Reaper's fortress. Distant screams echoed through the halls, mixed with the low growls of the undead trapped in nearby cells. They keep the cure in Riker's vault, Evelyn whispered. It'll be heavily guarded. Vex smirked. Then we do what we do best. Jonas stopped at a rusted security door and peeked through a small slit. 2 guards. Armed. Marcus exchanged a glance with Vex. No time for a firefight, they had to be quick. He nodded. Vex moved first, slipping out of the shadows. Before the first guard could react, she had a knife buried in his throat. Marcus followed, silencing the second with a bullet to the head. The bodies hit the floor with a thud. Ben dragged them into the shadows while Jonas hacked the security panel. The door slid open with a groan of old metal. Inside was a small, reinforced room lined with weapons, medical supplies, and a glass case at the center. The cure. A single vial of dark red liquid sat within the case, pulsing under the dim light. Evelyn rushed forward, pressing her hands against the glass. It's still intact, she breathed. We actually made it. Then a slow clap filled the room. They turned. Riker stood in the doorway, flanked by 6 Reapers with rifles aimed at their heads. Well, Riker grinned, his scarred face twisted with amusement. You really thought I wouldn't see this coming? Vex's fingers twitched toward her pistol. Riker wagged a finger. I'd hate to waste bullets, but I will. Marcus gritted his teeth. You have no idea what you're holding. Oh, I do, Riker said, stepping forward. A bargaining chip. A leash for the desperate fools clinging to survival. He tilted his head. But I'm a businessman. So here's my offer, you walk away, leave the cure with me, and I might let you live. Harper scoffed. Like hell we're leaving without it. Riker sighed. Didn't think so. Then the alarms blared. The ground rumbled. The horde was coming. Jonas cursed. The tunnels, they broke through. Chaos erupted. The Reapers turned as the first undead swarmed into the prison. In that split second, Marcus moved. He grabbed Riker's wrist and twisted, forcing his gun downward. A shot fired into the floor. Vex spun, driving her blade into a Reaper's gut. Harper fired, dropping another. Evelyn smashed the glass, grabbing the vial. Riker roared in fury and lunged at Marcus, tackling him into a steel shelf. They grappled, fists colliding in a brutal struggle. Go! Marcus shouted. Get out of here. Vex hesitated, then grabbed Evelyn and bolted for the exit with Harper and Sam. Jonas tossed Marcus a knife before following. Marcus caught it just as Riker swung. He dodged, then drove the blade deep into Riker's side. The Reaper leader staggered, laughing through the pain. You think this changes anything? Marcus pulled the knife free. Yeah. Then he shoved Riker into the path of an oncoming zombie. Riker's screams were drowned out by the feeding frenzy. Marcus sprinted after the others. Escape in the end of Blackgate. The team burst into the prison yard. The undead were everywhere, pouring in through broken fences. Jonas pointed. The east wall, we can climb it. They ran, cutting down anything in their way. Sam, despite his injury, fired his shotgun at anything that got too close. As they reached the wall, Vex slapped explosives onto a guard tower. Time to send a message. They scrambled over the barricade just as she hit the detonator. Boom! The prison erupted in flames. Blackgate was no more. They ran until they reached the abandoned gas station. Only then did they stop. Evelyn cradled the vial, tears in her eyes. We did it. Marcus exhaled. Now let's finish this. The fight wasn't over. But for the first time, there was hope. The world still had a future. The end.